Hey guys, it's Adrian here, the Canadian in a t-shirt, and today I'll be breaking down how to build wealth in Canada. These are the 4 key steps on the road to financial freedom. These fundamental principles are useful for anybody at any age, but I will be targeting Canadian millennials like me. Right off the bat, if you're looking for how to get rich quick, this video is not for you. My strategy is built around growing wealth in the long run. I'm talking 10, 20, 30 years. My strategy is simple, consistent, and boring. I'm not going to double my money overnight, and neither will you. The only way to get rich overnight is to be born into a rich family or marry a millionaire. For everyone else, you need to consistently grow your wealth year after year, and these 4 steps will get you there. Without further ado, here's how to build wealth in 4 steps. Pay off your credit card debt, reduce your spending, set up an emergency fund, and invest. Before we jump in, this video is actually an updated remake of one of my very first videos. Back then, I was filming with my cell phone and a cheap mic, so the audio and video quality weren't great, but the information is extremely important and relevant today. So I wanted to spruce it up and provide some updated information. So even if you've seen the original, I'd really appreciate it if you watched this video until the end and gave it a thumbs up. Also, I need to stress that these 4 steps are not a sequential to-do list. You don't just go through them, checking them off one by one until you're done. These 4 steps are the pillars of my financial strategy, and building wealth is a never-ending cycle. I am constantly reevaluating where I am in this cycle, and before I make any financial decision, I consider how that action will affect each of these 4 pillars. So let's start at the top, paying your credit card debt in full. Before you do anything with your money, you need to get rid of your credit card debt and any other high-interest debt. Most Canadians have debt, and these include mortgages, car loans, and student loans, but these loans usually charge really low interest rates, below 5%. You do need to pay these off, but not right away. There's no urgency. If your mortgage charges you 5% per year, but your investments give you 10% per year, you'll end up with more money if you invest rather than paying off your mortgage faster. But the debt that you have to get rid of right away is from credit cards and payday lenders. They charge huge interest rates. Credit cards in Canada charge between 20 and 25% interest, and payday lenders are even worse. They can charge upwards of 50% and even up to 200% interest. That's ridiculous. You should avoid these payday lenders like the plague, and if you see these signs, never go in. If you've seen my credit card guide, you know that I am a huge fan of using credit cards every day, but only if you can pay your monthly statement in full every single month. More than 30% of Canadians are in credit card debt, and that's because credit card companies intentionally make their terms confusing, especially for students and new Canadians who are the most vulnerable. I want to focus on one crucial trap, the credit card minimum payment. This is something that drives me crazy, and this is how most Canadians, especially young adults, fall into debt without even knowing it. I'm showing you the bottom portion of my credit card statement from my American Express card. You'll see that I owe a total amount of $1,822, but right below it, it says that the minimum payment I must make is only $10, and that I have to pay this $10 to avoid penalties. This is a trap. A terrifying number of young Canadians believe that as long as they pay this $10 minimum amount, they won't be charged any fees or penalties. This is wrong. I have to pay the full balance owing, which is $1,822 by the due date if I want to avoid interest. If I pay this full amount by the due date, then I'm good. American Express won't charge me any fees or interest, and in fact, I've gained a small 2% cashback just for using this card. But if I only pay this $10 minimum amount, I still owe American Express $1,812. And as soon as the deadline hits at the end of the month, they will start charging me 20% interest on this amount. That's an additional $360 at the end of the year, plus an additional $430 after the second year. If I keep paying only the minimum $10 amount, my original $800 debt will have doubled in less than 4 years. This is how credit card companies make money, and this is why it's so hard for Canadians to escape debt. If you have high interest debt, so credit card debt or payday loans, do not even consider investing or putting that money into a savings account. There is no investment out there which can give you 25% returns, but if you put all of your income into paying off this credit card debt, you are saving yourself this 25% of interest working against you, and that is a guaranteed return of 25%. So if you have fully paid off your credit card and other high interest debt, then we move on to step number 2, reduce your spending. Step number 2 is to reduce your spending or to live below your means. Becoming wealthy is not about how much money you make, it's about how much money you keep. If you make $200,000 a year, but you spend $190,000 a year on fancy cars, fancy clothes, fancy dinners, you'll never be wealthy, even though you have a huge salary. This is why you hear stories of people who win the lottery and then become bankrupt within a year. They earn a lot of money, but they spend it all on things which don't provide any value back. I'm an extremely frugal guy. I don't like spending money, and I always live below my means and reduce my expenses. For example, instead of going out to buy lunch every day, which would cost me between $10 and $15, I always pack lunch and bring it with me. You may think $15 is nothing, it's a drop in the bucket, but if you work 5 days a week, you're spending almost $4,000 a year on lunch. Instead, that $4,000 a year could be put into your TFSA or your retirement fund, or even spent on a vacation. Using my very strict budget and spending discipline, I'm able to save about 40% of my monthly income. That allows me to put aside and invest that 40% of my income in things like stocks, real estate, and in my business. Obviously, everyone is different, and I have the luxury of being independent. I don't have a family or kids that rely on me, and so I'm able to limit my expenses to such a degree and save a huge portion of my income. The point here is that even if I doubled my salary next year, I would still try to live below my means. I wouldn't move to a fancy apartment or upgrade to a luxury car. I would try to maintain my standard of living and keep my monthly expenses the same, and so I'd be able to invest even more out of my income. It's not about how much money you make, it's about how much money you keep. And if you want to increase your wealth, you really only have two options. Either increase your salary or reduce your expenses. Ideally, you want to do both, but you can't just increase your salary overnight. It takes a lot of time and effort to get a promotion, or you could spend even more time getting a second job, like freelancing or driving for Uber. It's much easier to reduce your expenses. But you can't reduce your expenses if you don't know how much you're currently spending. That's why I made this Excel budget spreadsheet, where I keep track of every single expense that I make. Here it is, and every day or two, I go through all of my receipts and my online credit card accounts to see every single purchase I made. I put these expenses in different categories: living expenses, groceries, restaurants, car expenses, entertainment, and miscellaneous. At the end of the month, I take a total of how much I spent in each category and what my total monthly spending was. If you're mindful and consistent with your budget, these monthly totals for each category should be pretty constant, and that's a good thing. That means you can always predict how much you will spend in the upcoming month. Finally, at the end of the month, I enter the total income I earned, and this formula calculates what my percentage of savings was. I usually aim to save around 40% of my income. I've uploaded this Excel budget template on my Google Drive account. If you want to use it, click the link in the box below, click the download button, and then you should be able to open it in Excel and use it to track your own expenses. Reducing your spending and living below your means is not a one-time thing. You have to constantly reevaluate your budget every few months or whenever a big change happens, like a new job, a new partner, or a new home. The next step in building wealth is to grow an emergency fund. An emergency fund is a stash of money you set aside to deal with any emergencies or anything unexpected. This money is not designed to get you rich. It's meant to act as a buffer or a shield to protect your investments. Let's say you get into a car accident and it will cost you $2,000 to fix your car. You need to pay this money out of pocket right away. So what do? If you have an emergency fund, just withdraw the $2,000, pay the mechanic, and your investments are untouched. And the next time you get paid, put the money back in your emergency fund to replenish it. That's easy, but if you didn't have an emergency fund, you might be in trouble. You would have to tap into your investments and sell off stocks to get this $2,000. The problem is, you need this money today, and if you're forced to sell your stocks today, you might be losing a lot of money. Maybe the value of your stocks took a dip last week, and normally that wouldn't bother you since you know your stocks will bounce back in a few weeks. But now, you need this money today, and so you'll have to sell the stocks at this low value. And as soon as you make that sale, you've lost money. Even worse, what if you can't sell your investments? Maybe your investments are tied up in real estate or GICs. It takes weeks or months to sell real estate, and so now your only option is to charge that $2,000 to your credit card. And if you can't pay that in a month, you're now in credit card debt, and you'll be charged 20% interest on that. So you see, having a few $1,000s set aside in an emergency fund can save you a huge amount of stress and a considerable amount of money. Your emergency fund should not be tied up in investments. It should be sitting in a high interest savings account where there is zero risk. If you have $4,000 sitting in a savings account, it will never lose value. In fact, it will earn you a constant and steady interest rate to match inflation. Right now, we're seeing historically low interest rates, so the best savings account in Canada right now is with EQ Bank. With EQ Bank, you'll earn 1.25% interest with no monthly fees and no minimum balance, so it's perfect for an emergency fund. If you'd like to get started with EQ Bank, click my referral link in the box below to sign up and help support my channel. Personally, I like to keep between $4,000 and $6,000 in this emergency fund at all times. That's enough to cover all of my expenses for at least 4 months if something were to happen and I were to lose my job. But everyone is different. If you have a mortgage and 2 kids, you'll probably want to save more than $6,000 in your emergency fund. But don't go too far with this. If you have $20,000 sitting in a savings account, sure, you'll be safe from any possible catastrophe, but that money is just sitting there. It's not working for you. $20,000 in a savings account earning you 1.25% will only get you $250 a year. Instead, if you invest this $20,000, you could be earning yourself upwards of 7 or 8% every year. Once you have an emergency fund set up, you want to make sure that you always have enough money in there to keep you afloat for at least 4 months. Any money beyond that is frankly being wasted in a savings account, and instead should be invested. And that brings us to step number 4, which is investing. And this is where the fun begins. Everything I've talked about up until this point was about protecting yourself and protecting your current wealth. But investing is how you make your wealth grow. If you live by steps 1 to 3, you'll be saving money every year, and you'll avoid paying huge fees to credit card companies. But you won't be building wealth. At most, those savings will earn you about 2% a year, and most of that will be eaten up by taxes and inflation. Instead, if you invest your money, you can truly make your money work for you. Warren Buffett, the undisputed greatest investor in our lifetime, famously said, "If you don't find a way to make money in your sleep, you will work until you die." No retirement, no relaxing on a beach, you'll have to work every single day just to live. And those words are incredibly true. Most people rely solely on their full-time job to make money. That means that they have to trade 8 hours a day or more to get money at the end of the week. But if they stop working, they stop getting paid, and their income dies. Because of that, you'll always have to work more and more hours and work harder and harder to get more money. But there's a limit. People can't work 24 hours a day, and they shouldn't. We need to have a life outside of work. We need to spend time with our family and friends and find joy in life. On the other hand, if you invest your money, your investments are working for you 24 hours a day. Your investments are making you money in your sleep, and that is the only way to build wealth. I have a whole playlist called the Millennial Investing Guide, so if you want to learn the basics of the stock market and how to actually buy stocks, click the pop-up at the top right to check those videos out. But for today, I want to keep it very short. Investing is any time you put money aside today with the expectation that you'll make more money in the future. You're making a sacrifice in the short term to reap the rewards in the long term. For example, if you go out and spend $100 on Starbucks coffee, that money is gone. Sure, the coffee gave you joy, and it was fun while it lasted, but as soon as that $100 leaves your hands, it's gone, and it's never coming back to you. Instead, if you went out and bought $100 of Starbucks stock, that's investing. Now, you are a tiny owner of the Starbucks company, and so you are entitled to a tiny portion of their profits. For today, in the short term, you've still lost $100 out of your bank account, but every 3 months, Starbucks will pay you a percentage of the profits, and that's called a dividend. So that $100 you invested is now paying you every few months. On top of that, as the years go on and Starbucks as a company grows, your stocks have also grown in value. And if you want to, you can now sell your Starbucks stock for, let's say, $150. In this way, your $100 initial investment has now made you an extra $50 in profits, plus all the dividends that you've received over the years. Compare this to the first case, where we spent $100 on Starbucks coffee. That $100 is gone, and years later, we're still left with nothing. This is a very simple example, but I hope it illustrates what an investment is and how investing can make your wealth grow. And stocks aren't the only type of investing. You could also invest in bonds, ETFs, mutual funds, real estate, and you could even invest in yourself by starting a business. I've already made videos on each of these topics, so make sure you check those out. And when you start investing, make sure you take advantage of tax-sheltered accounts like the TFSA, RRSP, and RESP if you have kids. Why pay taxes on investments when you have tax-sheltered room waiting for you? So make sure you check out my Canadian tax guide to learn how to maximize your tax-free growth. So there you have it. Those are my 4 key steps to building wealth in Canada. Pay off your credit card debts, reduce your spending, set up an emergency fund, and invest. These are the 4 cornerstones of my financial strategy, and you should make it a habit of evaluating each of these 4 steps before you make any decision with your money. Again, this will not get you rich overnight. It will take years and years to build your wealth, but if you keep this mentality and keep these principles in your mind, you will become wealthy, one step at a time. Thanks for watching, guys, and be sure to like, comment, and subscribe if you found this video helpful. Every thumbs up and comment really does help me build this channel on YouTube, and hit that bell icon to be notified of my new videos. And don't worry, guys, I'm still going to be making lots of new videos, but I do also want to remake some of my oldest videos which can use an update. So thanks everyone, and I'll see you guys on the next episode of The Canadian in a T-Shirt. Bye guys!